So Brian Windhorst, part of our marathon NBA team, somehow is still standing, back with some perspective. And I do want to focus on the Lakers because they're fighting to get in the playoffs. And some would say, Wendy, love to hear you weigh in on this as well, addition by subtraction too, because they send Russell Westbrook away. He is now in Utah. So how better off are the Lakers than they were even 48 hours ago?
They're much better off, Hannah. The problem is that they played 50 games with a roster that was really poorly constructed around LeBron James and Anthony Davis with Russell Westbrook. I mean, I think Rob Pelinka, their general manager, really did a remarkable job of remaking this team on the fly. This is now a team that has much better shooting options and much better big man athleticism than they did at the start of the season. And, you know, it has happened a number of times in LeBron's career where his team has made a massive changeover in their roster and had successful campaigns. So I don't necessarily think that that's a huge problem. What is a problem is that because it took 50 games to get here, that they are now out of position, in 13th place, pretty far back, and have to make a big jump over some teams to get into the playoffs. Not impossible, but I definitely feel like they've made major progress.
Yeah, I mean, they are 2.5 games back of that final playoff spot. That is a lot of ground to make up at this point as all these players assimilate themselves and the 7th hardest remaining schedule. Wendy, I can't wait to hear your take now on the Western Conference, so we'll be back with you in just a bit to chat about that. Jay?
And meanwhile, the Suns were in Atlanta last night for a date with the Hawks. Chris Paul, Trae Young, no Devin Booker, no Kevin Durant. First quarter, Young in transition. He's going to drive into the paint, give it to John Collins. And Collins, yes, with authority. And Young and Collins just getting started. Second quarter now, Hawks up 47-35. Young and Collins on the pick and roll. Young with the lob and Collins throwing it down again. Young, 11 points, 6 dimes, 5 boards at the half. Hawks up 56-47 going into the third. Under 9 minutes to go in the third. Hawks up 10. Young coming down with it. Wing, step back, 3. The lead is extended. Next possession, Young playing some defense. Damian Lee, I'll take that, thank you. Collins chasing it down. Collins throwing it down. Young, 12 points, 3 assists in the third. Now in the fourth quarter, DeJounte Murray drives, passing out to Young. Young from the logo, 36 feet, feeling it. He finished with 36 points, 12 dimes and 7 rebounds, and patiently waiting on the Coca-Cola logo, pulling up from 28. Hawks get the win. As for the Suns, they're excited about KD.
You add him to the daggone, who was that the Harlem Globetrotters play against all the time? Washington Generals. You know what I'm saying? You add him to them, then they gonna be nice. You know what I mean?
We done made the world shake a couple times today, but a lot of things come to my mind. But really competitiveness, competing. You know, being the top competitor in this league and knowing damn well teams are aware and knowing damn well that we got to finish the job.
Brian Windhorst back with us. All right, Brian, looking deeper into the KD trade, what more are you hearing about how this all went down?
Yeah, well, I will say that how it all went down is John Collins, who was dunking on the Suns last night, he was about this close to being a Sun on Wednesday night because the talks between the Nets and the Suns had actually kind of broken down, and they were moving on to a John Collins trade. But basically what happened here is on Monday, Kevin Durant, less than 24 hours after the Nets made the deal to acquire Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant requested a trade to the Phoenix Suns, I am told. Now, this was a request, not a demand. He didn't say that he wasn't going to play. He would have willing to finish out the season, but he did decide he wanted to move on, and he did decide that he only wanted to move on to one team. And so over the next few days, Jay, they negotiated. The Nets, as you see from what they got, had an incredibly high ask. The complicating factor in all of this, between Monday and Wednesday, the Suns had a new owner. Okay, so what you have here is you had to negotiate an ownership transfer and then the biggest trade in the history of the franchise. I think it's bigger than the Charles Barkley trade. We'll see how it plays out. And I will tell you, I think it's the biggest trade in the history of the trade deadline when you go back and look at it. So that all had to get done, and it got done late on Wednesday night. The deal almost fell apart several times. One of the last sticking points after the Suns agreed to send those picks, to send Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, was actually over Jay Crowder. The last sticking point was whether Jay Crowder was going to be in the deal. And Matt Ishbia, the brand new owner, and along with James Jones, came to the decision that they were going to meet that sky-high Nets price. And the rest, will it be history? We're going to watch and find out.
Dallas Mavericks are hoping that man, Luka Doncic, will be back on the court soon. Luka's missed 3 consecutive games because of a right heel contusion. Mavs PR tweeting that Doncic is questionable for tonight's game in Sacramento. No doubt Luka is eager to get back on the court to play with his newest teammate, Kyrie Irving, who Dallas traded for earlier in the week. The Mavs have 4 games remaining before the All-Star break. Their next 2 games are on the road against the Kings. The first of those 2 is tonight at 10 Eastern. They return home once to face the Timberwolves and then go back on the road to take on first in the West, Nuggets. Brian Windhorst is back with us. Brian, as we wait to see Luka and Kyrie on the court together, what's the rest of the league saying about how this is going to work in Dallas?
You know, Jay, people in the NBA have talked about how this is maybe the most skilled backcourt they've ever seen between Luka and Kyrie. And I have to say, when you think about it, they may be right about that. They are really a tremendous match offensively. And Kyrie has a lot of experience playing with ball-dominant big guards, LeBron James and James Harden. He should fit in here. I feel like, especially with the shooting that they have with Tim Hardaway and the floor spacing other players that they have, even though they lost a couple of players in the trade, I think that they're going to be an offensive juggernaut. The huge question is whether they can get it done defensively. And that's what these next 25 or 30 games are going to be about. They've obviously got to get court time together, which is why Luka getting back from the heel injury as quickly as possible is important.
Kyrie dropping 24 in his debut, which was a Dallas win over the Clippers. Looking forward to seeing them on the court together whenever it happens. Hannah, let's go over to you.
All right, more on the West after trading Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges as part of the package to acquire Kevin Durant. The shorthanded Suns lost to the Hawks 116-107 last night. Durant's trade just one of several deadline moves that have reshaped the West. We have reports on what's next now for the Suns and the Lakers, starting with Nick Friedel.
Kevin Durant is already paying dividends for the Suns, and he hasn't even played a game yet. Monty Williams said it's not an emotional lift, it's a jolt to the organization to get Durant in the fold. Chris Paul said you could put Kevin Durant on the Washington Generals, and they'd be better. And then we walk over and talk to DeAndre Ayton, who says, hell yeah, we can win a title with Kevin Durant. We believe in the expectations, and we're ready for them. Now, the Suns are hopeful that Durant will be ready to play right after the All-Star break, but they want to take it slow as he goes through his rehab, and they want him 100% when he sets foot on the floor for his first game.
3 of the Lakers' 5 new players, point guard D'Angelo Russell, shooting guard Malik Beasley, and forward Jared Vanderbilt, were already with the team on Thursday night, watching the Lakers loss to the Bucks on the bench in street clothes. And Mo Bamba and Devon Reed are expected to be with the team Friday. And all of them could play as soon as Saturday in Golden State. Anthony Davis said, quote, "We're behind the 8 ball, so we've got to do it with some urgency. And with only 26 games left in the season, it will be imperative that he and LeBron James encourage the new pieces to step in with confidence. We need them to be who they are," Davis said. And Lakers coach Darvin Ham acknowledged LA has work to do, but isn't lacking confidence. Make no mistake about it, Ham said, we don't fear anyone.
So back with Windy, and it feels like all of this activity around the trade deadline really impacted both conferences, right? Because the Nets, they have some talent. They're not considered the contenders they once were. It's pretty clear who's at the top of the East. You look at the West, especially when Steph Curry gets healthy, it could be the wild, wild West. So as you take a big picture step back from this, Windy, all the moves that were made, what do you think the most significant impacts will be in the Western Conference as we look ahead?
Yeah, Hannah, a number of the contenders made moves in the wake of the Durant trade. We saw the Clippers make a couple of trades. We saw the Memphis Grizzlies make a trade. But how about the defending champion Golden State Warriors? They realize that when they get healthy, they are going to have a serious contender with the Suns and having to deal with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on the floor at the same time. They aggressively went after defense at the deadline. getting Gary Payton II back. They also looked at OG Anunoby from Toronto, who ultimately didn't get traded. When they dumped James Wiseman, and that was obviously an interesting move for them, the former number 2 overall pick, Hannah, they could have just sat on the cost savings. This is a $400 million roster, including luxury tax, and they were going to save tens of millions of dollars with just that Wiseman deal, sending him to Detroit. But Joe Lacob, Bob Myers went forward, got the Blazers on the phone, paid 5 second-round picks to get Gary Payton back, and that move was made thinking about that postseason, the potential 7-game series with the Suns to try to retain that title.
Right, you bring back a guy who's already so comfortable. You send a guy off who it just never worked out there for whatever reason. And you mentioned the men behind the building of this franchise. They have made smart move after smart move to keep this team in contention for so long. Wendy, appreciate you. Watch out for the defending champs. Thanks.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.